we're back in Bali, we've been receiving a lot of questions about Canggu over on Instagram. Questions like, is it worth visiting in 2022? How's the traffic? Is it crazy? Is it too busy? Well, let's share our thoughts in this video. Canggu is rated one of the best digital nomad hotspots in the world for its affordable cost of living, high-speed internet and co-working, incredible cafe and restaurant scene, and general quality of life. We've spent a total of almost 2 years living here on and off, pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and now in 2022. So many nomads have left Canggu though, even some of our friends, complaining of the hike in pricing, crazy traffic, and limited accommodation options. We saw so many bad videos on the internet that Rhett wasn't even excited to come back. Are people being dramatic, or is it justified? Well, we're here to find out for ourselves. First stop, brekkie at the most popular cafe in Canggu. Here at Rhett, they have a really good value for money, huge portions of healthy breakfasts.
Most of the meals are like 60k, and it includes taxes and everything. You know you're gonna just pay 100k for a coffee and a breakfast, which is super good value.
Did I mention the portions being huge? Like really, really big. Rhett always chooses something sweet, and I always choose something savory. So comment down below, what are you? Are you like a sweet eater or a savory eater? I mean, he's basically eating dessert for breakfast.
But it is very busy. It's a Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and we could not believe the line when we arrived here.
We came here in 2021 during the pandemic, and there was no line. It was easy to get a seat on a Saturday, so yeah. This is definitely busier than what it used to be.
One of the best things about Crate is covers for your bike seat, so Clary doesn't have a burnt bum. Thank you.
Right across the road, there's all these new shops and buildings that were not here a year ago. There are so many different businesses being built, and I don't know, just open, everything's open again, plus more. It's actually crazy the way Canggu is developing.
And you can especially see that on the old shortcut, which used to just be this decrepit, bad road. It's now been beautifully tarred, and again, huge shops, barber shops, cafes, all sorts of things springing up along the road. The development has been crazy to see.
I think as soon as Bali opened its borders again for tourism, everyone's like, build a business! Quickly!
But to their credit, during the pandemic, we did see them. They were still so happy and positive and building during that time, because they just knew everything would be okay and go back to normal.
One sad thing about that is there's less and less rice fields. Like they're slowly being built up. And here's one behind us! Woo! Slowly being built up though.
So just having a quick drive through the Batu Balong area, looking at all the coffee shops and cafes. Most of them are basically full. There's no tables open, and it's a Tuesday morning. I guess it is a work day. A lot of nomads are out there doing their thing. So yeah, chock-a-block.
Back in the air conditioning. Eating in the heat is quite hard.
Especially if you have a coffee and it gets your immune
Hot
system.
coffee, digesting food, still heat. Oh, it's brutal. So we've come home to be in the air conditioning again. And I just want to mention that Crate was very, very busy, but that's one of about 5 million cafes that you can visit in Bali. So if it's too busy for you, oh gosh, there's so many other ones. Some of our favorites are like Sari. Should I say it?
Nook.
Coast, keep it a secret though. Nook, what else?
All the Nook things. Paso Banuk,
Milo, Paso Banuk, Inca. That's a goodie. Gosh, there's so many, guys. You just have to drive up and down and see which is like pretty popular. Just look how many bikes there are outside. If there's lots of bikes, then you know it's quite a good one. The thing about Bali is certain cafes are so busy, and then other cafes are completely empty. It's quite sad to see. It's quite a cutthroat How would you say it?
I think it just comes down to the strategies, the pricing of the food, and the value for money. Like Sari has a really good little deal with the coffee being free if you go and get a meal there. Those kinds of things, and obviously the comfort and whether it has air conditioning or good airflow. Those are the things that really result in a place being popular.
So on the way from Crate's home, we sat in about 10 seconds of traffic. It's around the corner from us on Batu Balong Street. But let's get into it. Traffic. This is something that so many people have been asking about. How's the traffic in Canggu now? To be dead honest with you, it's not that bad. It really depends which streets you're on and at what time of day. We've been on the shortcut about 5 times now. If you don't know what the shortcut is and what I'm talking about, it's the little road, like this kind of informal road that was built to connect Barawa and Canggu. They've recently tarred it because it gets a lot of people driving on it, a lot of traffic. And only one time did we sit in traffic, and that was on a Friday at about 2 p.m. in the day. That's when it was busy. Other days we were there in the morning, there was barely any cars or bikes on the shortcut. So it really depends what time and where you are. And the thing I keep saying to people that are like, oh my gosh, the traffic in Bali and Canggu is so bad. I just remember, I don't know, 7 years ago when I used to sit in traffic in the city of Johannesburg, bumper to bumper for an hour. It doesn't even compare to that. Being in New York City, we had to sit in a taxi for an hour to get somewhere. It's nothing like that. You just sit in traffic for about 10 to 20 minutes, if that. And yeah, it's hot and stuff, but my goodness, it doesn't compare to big city traffic at all. That's why I don't think it's a problem, and I don't think people should be complaining about it, to be honest.
Speaking of which, I'm curious to see what the shortcut looks like right now at 20 past 12 on a Tuesday afternoon. So there we have it. The traffic is flowing. There's literally no traffic jam, and you can see that construction. There's a whole bunch of new things happening along the shortcut, and yeah, I think it's pretty good to see Bali developing. There are still a ton of rice fields, as you can see. It is just so beautiful. I love looking at it from the air.
Okay, so I've come to a cafe. I cannot work from home, whereas Rhett can, so I've come to one of the many cafes that I come to work at. This is actually Coast. It's so beautiful, and it's actually very quiet compared to the other cafes. I think it's a bit of a hidden gem, but I'm just going to go over pricing because I'm sure you guys are wondering, is Canggu still affordable? In 2021, loads of companies and businesses and restaurants and accommodations knocked their pricing down. And obviously, since the pandemic has ended and tourism is back up and running, certain prices have gone back up. So accommodation has definitely become a little more expensive. Minimum you can find a homestay for, I would say, 6 million. We haven't heard of anyone getting a homestay for less than that per month. And hostels are like pretty affordable still, around 250 to 300k a night for a bunk bed, a single bunk bed in a shared dorm. Villas here have gone up quite tremendously. In 2020, we had a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, beautiful villa in Canggu, in Korobakan, for 21 million a month. I don't think you can find that anymore. We've actually looked on Facebook. They're about 35 million upwards. So yeah, accommodation has definitely gone up. Next up, let's talk about food. You can actually, if you want an idea of pricing in Canggu of food, you can check out our previous video. We give you a warung and a fancy restaurant. So go check out that video, I'll link it above. But food has roughly stayed the same. It hasn't really changed too much compared to pre-pandemic. Obviously, during the pandemic, they had tons of food specials. You could get meals and drinks included for like 50k. It was super cheap. So it's obviously not as cheap as that anymore. And then groceries, expensive as ever. Things like meat products, seafood, dairy, like cheeses and milks and yogurts and things like that, and cereals are so expensive here. We come from South Africa, so it's expensive for us, but apparently it's roughly the same as like European pricing. So yeah, actually really depends where you come from, whether it's expensive for you or not. And then the last pricing I'm going to cover is transportation. Grabs and Gojeks are still the exact same, super duper cheap and affordable to get around. Bike hire has gone up since the pandemic, but it's roughly the same as what it was in 2020 before the pandemic. So you're looking at like $60 to $100 for a bike hire, but that's not really that expensive if you look at like the world and how much bikes cost all over the world. It's still super affordable. I just want to mention that I am speaking to digital nomads and people wanting to come live and stay and work from Canggu. I'm not talking about tourists. Half of these prices don't even apply to you. You're not going to go grocery shopping. You're not going to hire a motorbike for a month. All these things. So just to let you know. If you're wanting a very in-depth cost of living, do comment down below and we'll track all of our pricing and do one of those in the future. I don't want to get into it into too much depth. That's it for pricing. Things that have changed really are transportation a little bit and accommodation. That's basically it. Visas have stayed the same, and oh yeah, flights. But we all know flights around the world are crazy expensive right now. There's also one more thing I want to mention about accommodation is that it's pretty booked up here in Canggu. It was quite hard to find accommodation. We miss our old homestay so much, but it's completely booked up for the next month. So do book your accommodation in advance if you're staying in Canggu specifically. Yeah, we had to settle for the homestay that we're currently in, which is, you know, it's not our favorite, but what can you do when things are booked up, bro? Miss our old homestay, cat 2 pops. But anyway, it's time to hop on this cute little scoopy and head home, fetch Rhett, and then we're heading to the beach for sunset, and we'll give you our thoughts on the beach and the vibe down there, because this is when Bali starts livening up. Before I carry on my drive, I just want to mention that this is Dojo co-working space. This entire area, it used to be so busy and so packed. It used to be like the hub of Bali. It's now pretty darn quiet. Like, I don't know, there's no more crowds or anything anymore here. I feel like Bali is expanding so much that people are going to neighboring areas and they're not all like centered in this hub anymore. Depends what area you're in, if Bali is busy or not. So far we're not finding it busy at all compared to how it used to be pre-pandemic.
Alright, we are here at Batu Balong beach, and Old Man's during the pandemic was completely closed. It looked like it was an abandoned building, but it is up and running again. It's happening, the music is going, they have parties there. So yeah, it is back to normal. Let's head down to the beach and see how many surfers are in the water today. So the beaches these days with the rain have had a lot of litter. We've been trying to do as many cleanups as we can at the rivers and on the beaches. So if you are in Canggu, please do get involved. We'll leave the links to that in the description so you can come and help. I think there's a beach cleanup every single Sunday. There are a good 100 or so surfers out there. This is the state of the parking. It's pretty full. Give you an idea of how many people are at the beach.
Canggu is known for its restaurants and bars on the beach where most people spend their sunsets with a bintang in hand. We've come to Seaweed on a Wednesday night and the place is basically full. Bali is back. This is when you really see the crowds. There's so many bikes here. I don't think I've ever in the history of Bali seen this many bikes. And just, yeah, it's so alive when the sun starts to go down. Okay, home sweet home. It was good to see old friends that we haven't seen in a while. They've been living in Bali since the start of the pandemic, but they also think that Bali is quite expensive because they lived here in the pandemic. Obviously everything was way cheaper, but they're still gonna stay here. They're happy to be here, lots of friends. It's just very comfy when you live here permanently. And that's it, right?
Yeah, pretty much everything's normal.
The vibes are there, people are having a good
There's
time.
music playing, there's lots of surfers in the water, all the restaurants are open, nothing is closed. At least in Canggu, I think we haven't been to Kuta and Seminyak yet, so no idea what that looks like anymore, but yeah, it's looking good. Canggu is up and running.
And apparently Ubud is getting busier too, and Uluwatu is still quite quiet. Although, no, there were people that told me the beaches are really busy in Uluwatu. So, yeah, I personally love seeing Bali back.
It was a bit depressing when like every second cafe was closed, not a lot of people, not a lot of things to do.
So, in conclusion, is it still worth coming here and living in Canggu? Well, we definitely think so. You just have to be willing to increase your budget a little bit, but we think it's worth it for the lifestyle that you get while living here.